What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. I wanted to come on here and give some more takeaways to the new NFL head coaching hires. I was listening to the introductory press conferences of Aaron Glenn, Liam Coen. Liam Coen, my God, we got to do a way better job of saying Duval because I don't know what this was.
Duval.
The Raiders hiring Pete Carroll. We know that Tom Brady had his fingerprints written all over that, but I still don't understand the short term and long term goals of hiring Pete Carroll, the oldest head coach in the league. They do got a pretty good salary cap situation and a draft situation. So maybe, if everything goes right, he could work some magic and put some soul into the Las Vegas Raiders, and maybe they end up having an overnight turnaround because the NFL is kind of random like that. And then of course Ben Johnson, can he fix Caleb Williams? Before we dive into it, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon if you're new so you don't miss when we drop new content and when we go live. Remember, we are not just a YouTube channel, we are a podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Links are down in the description down below. Give us a 5-star review if you enjoy, and let's dive into it. Liam Coen is the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, I am really excited about what Liam Coen is going to bring to Duval. Trevor Lawrence is the heart and soul of the Jaguars, all right? They made him tied for the highest paid quarterback in the league this past offseason, and they need to make sure that they can get their money's worth out of T-Law, which is why they had no choice but to go and hire an offensive-minded head coach. And I think that they got the second best head coach candidate available as far as offensive minds on the coaching market. Other than Ben Johnson, who they also were in the running to get, Liam Coen wasn't too far off behind them. This is somebody who comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree, which has produced Kevin O'Connell, Zach Taylor. There's been some really good head coaches that have come from underneath working under Sean McVay. So if you hire somebody from under him, you're in pretty good hands. And for the Jaguars heading into this offseason, they don't have a lot of holes as far as, what they need to be a playoff team this upcoming season. The division is not that good. The Texans have issues. The Colts have a quarterback issue. We know that Trevor Lawrence can play. The Titans don't know if they can find a quarterback who can play, and we don't know if the Colts have a quarterback who can play. We don't even know if the Colts really have a quarterback. For all we know, Anthony Richardson could be a future tight end in a few years. But Trevor Lawrence has shown that he can play good football. When he led the Jaguars to the playoffs in 2022, that was no fluke. He had a really good season that year, and he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league as well. But injuries and inconsistent play have kind of made him out to be an overrated quarterback. But the only reason people have paid attention to the Jaguars, why people consistently talk about this team, is because of Trevor Lawrence. And with Liam Coen, with the system that he's going to bring, he just led Baker Mayfield to the best statistical season of his NFL career. And the Buccaneers were willing to make this guy the highest paid coordinator in the league for a reason. I believe that the Jaguars got a really good hire, and Liam Coen, he's going to be able to be the one who can fix Trevor Lawrence, get him playing good football. They got weapons. You got Brian Thomas Jr., you got a few pieces on the offensive line. All you got to do is make some good hires with your defensive coordinator. You got to make sure that you also can find somebody who can do a really good job of maximizing the potential of your offensive line. You know, the Jaguars, I think, are in pretty good hands with Liam Coen as the head coach. The Chicago Bears hire Ben Johnson as their next head coach. This is the guy who is the hot commodity on the head coaching market. And now he comes into Chicago tasked with the responsibility of helping develop Caleb Williams and helping him reach his full potential. And what if Ben Johnson is able to accomplish that task? How good would that make the Chicago Bears? Because Ben Johnson is perceived to be the second coming of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. He's supposed to be this next great offensive mind. And if he truly is able to live up to that reputation, and this is a situation that, remember when Sean McVay first got hired by the Rams, he got a Jared Goff that nobody even knew if he was capable of being able to play with how bad he looked in his first season. And then, you know, Jared Goff played really good football under Sean McVay ever since. So if Ben Johnson has that same impact on Caleb Williams that Sean McVay had when he first took the Rams job, maybe we could see the Los Angeles Rams, well, not the Los Angeles Rams, but maybe this season coming up, we could see the Bears in the same situation that the Commanders were just in this past weekend, where we see them have an overnight turnaround because you have a head coach that knows what he's doing with the quarterback, and you have somebody that also can bring a new energy into the organization. Because with Ben Johnson, when you just look at him and you listen to him talk, something just feels different about him. You know, it's like he doesn't feel like Matt Nagy. He doesn't feel like any of the head coaches that you have hired in the last couple of years. This is somebody that just feels fresh. He has a young, rejuvenated vibe about him. And you just have a quarterback in Caleb Williams that did have a pretty decent rookie season considering his situation, but now with him receiving way better coaching, with a team that is already built to win, we could quickly see Ben Johnson turn around the Chicago Bears and have this team playing in the conference championship around this same time next year. We just seen the Washington Commanders do it. There's no reason why the Chicago Bears can't do it with Ben Johnson. I believe that this is going to work. I get it that the Chicago Bears are the franchise that head coaches and quarterbacks go to die. But Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, this pairing is about to change that. This pairing is about to change the history and the future, the past and the present of the Chicago Bears franchise moving forward. If you are a Bears fan, you finally have a reason to take those plastic bags from off your face. You finally have a reason to have legitimate optimism this offseason. You know, there's a difference between being the casually overly optimistic fan just because you're a fan, but you still know the real at the end of the day. And there's a difference between actually being optimistic during the offseason because you really know that this team can win. I mean, if the Chicago Bears are not in the playoffs year one under Ben Johnson, he should get fired. This is a team that is already built to win. Most of the games they lost this past season came down to one possession that you just had Matt Eberflus, rather if it was him, mishandling the clock or just not having the team prepared for late game situations. The Chicago Bears, you know, if you were to flip some of the outcomes of their one possession games, they probably are a 9, maybe 10 win team. If you haven't already, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, share this episode with your friends, family members, and acquaintances. Give us a 5-star review. Giving us a 5-star review is the equivalent to donating $1,000 to the channel. It helps us out a lot, helps us grow. So make sure that you go ahead, give us a 5-star review. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I saw the notification pop up on my phone that the Las Vegas Raiders hired Pete Carroll as their head coach, this shit made me laugh so loud because what are you doing hiring the oldest head coach in the NFL? Pete Carroll turned 74 in September. And my thing with Pete Carroll is that the reason why he got outed out of Seattle, why they forced him out, is because he was outdated. His defenses were just terrible. They were always ranking in the bottom of the NFL for like the last 3, 4, 5 years. Pete Carroll in the division that's home to the majority of the NFL's best head coaches. You got to play Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton twice in the season. Yeah, the Raiders got a lot of cap space. They're second in available cap space going into this offseason. But I mean, I really just don't see a lot of success coming out of this hire. Oh, JT, you're just a Las Vegas Raiders hater. Who do you think would have been better than Pete Carroll? Brian Flores. Brian Flores, his final couple of seasons in Miami, won 9 games. So it's not like he showed that he was unable to win at all. He just couldn't get along with Tua. And somewhat, he was right. He wanted Jordan Love or Justin Herbert. And both of those guys have been proven to be better than what Miami has right now. So, I mean, shoot, I think Brian Flores deserves another opportunity to be a head coach. Pete Carroll, there is, if we want to talk about the potential of the Las Vegas Raiders hiring Pete Carroll, what if this hire does pan out? What if the age doesn't matter and he's able to rejuvenate his career? Well, okay, you got to get a good quarterback in there. Are you going to draft Shador, maybe trade up for Cam Ward if the Titans don't take him first overall? Are you going to roll the dice on Sam Darnold? You have the money to improve your roster overnight. And if Pete Carroll can hire the right defensive coordinator with Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby fully healthy, if they don't trade him, the Raiders could easily have one of the better defenses in the league this upcoming season, especially if they can improve the secondary as well. They are not too far away from being a playoff team. There were a good amount of games that they lost this year because of bad coaching. If they can get better quarterback play and the defense can stay healthy, I could see Pete Carroll, maybe winning 10, 11 games out of nowhere. The NFL is random, so I'm not ruling it out that this hire can't work out for the Raiders, but I just don't see it, man. The guy was outdated. I can understand if he went out 7-10, 8-9, but still had a top 15 defense, but literally like his last 4 years in Seattle, the defense was always consistently bottom 5. Go check the stats. Go check the numbers. I'm not making this up. That's why Russell Wilson wanted out. He ain't had no offensive line and no doggone defense neither. Even when Geno Smith was playing good, the defense was terrible. I just don't know about the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll. I know y'all may always feel like I'm being too harsh on the Raiders, but it's like, I've been around for 22 years on this planet. They've only been good for 2 years I've been alive. So it's kind of hard to be optimistic about the moves that they make. And for all we know, Tom Brady might be the Michael Jordan of the NFL when it comes to minority owners. Just because you're a Hall of Fame player doesn't mean you're going to be a good general manager. Former players don't always make the best executives nor head coaches. So I just don't see, with Pete Carroll's age and how outdated he is, how he's going to survive in the AFC West. He's going to get eaten alive by Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, and Sean Payton. Those are 3 of the 5 best coaches in the game right now, man. I just don't see it. You praying for a miracle with this one. I'm not going to say it's a Hail Mary hire by the Las Vegas Raiders, but this is definitely a trick play hire by the Las Vegas Raiders, man, because I ain't going to say it couldn't happen because we've seen crazier things in the NFL. I've seen the Jaguars make it to an AFC championship game and come close to winning it. So I'm not ruling out that Pete Carroll couldn't have some success in Las Vegas. I just feel really, unconfident about it. Can Aaron Glenn end the NFL's longest playoff drought? It's been 14 years since the New York Jets have last won a playoff game. Can a former New York Jet come in, re-energize the franchise, and finally give Jets fans reasons to watch these games again? Aaron Glenn, to me, this hire has the potential of being what D'Amico Ryans has been to the Houston Texans. Because remember, D'Amico Ryans, he was a really good player with the Houston Texans. And they've been to the playoffs their first 2 seasons under D'Amico Ryans. And Aaron Glenn, he could do the same thing with the New York Jets. He wanted this job, as he said in his presser.
Listen, I want this job. I interviewed for a number of them, but I wanted this job. When I was going to my second interview, I wanted to make sure this is going to be the second interview. It's going to be the first of the second interviews, because I didn't want to leave the building without shaking Woody's hand and make sure we had a contract. So I'm just telling you now, everything else was really out of it. It was all about the Jets, and it's been that way from the beginning.
And the Jets, defensively, they have one of the best defenses in the NFL from a talent standpoint. They got a really good defensive line, solid linebackers, a really good secondary. Aaron Glenn was turning glitter into gold with all of the injuries that he had to deal with calling plays for the Lions defense this past season. Imagine what he could do with a healthy Jets defense. You know, they have a little bit of money to spend and free agency. You know, they got a little bit of wiggle room in the NFL draft to make some things shake. The AFC East, man, this thing ain't as, you know, one-sided as what you may think. The Dolphins are easily about to fall off now because the quality of coaching in this division has gradually increased. You got Mike Vrabel with the Patriots. You got Aaron Glenn now with the New York Jets. The Buffalo Bills are no longer going to be as good as what they've been in the past with the hiring of Aaron Glenn and Mike Vrabel. Aaron Glenn could be the New York Jets version of Mike Tomlin if the ownership lets him. This is a A-plus hire for them. Because for them to be an organization that's been so dysfunctional, so poorly ran from the top up, and to always seem to be able to come away with some of the better head coaching candidates, it just always surprises me. This is definitely an A-plus hire considering, you know, the situation up front with Woody Johnson. But you know, the cons about Aaron Glenn, you don't know who's playing quarterback. Is Aaron Rodgers going to hang it up? Is he going to come back and run it back one time? If Aaron Rodgers decides to come back with Aaron Glenn, this could easily be a playoff team. Aaron Rodgers hasn't completely fallen off the cliff. He showed that he can be more than capable. He can definitely be a top 18 quarterback in the league, and you can make it to the playoffs as long as you have a solid quarterback that can take care of the ball and a fantastic defense. And the Jets already have a roster that isn't too far off from being a playoff caliber team. Before this season started, the best were flying in on them to win the AFC East. You know, some people thought that they could be a Super Bowl contender. So you can keep some of these guys or improve off the team that you had from going into last year. I mean, the New York Jets could have an overnight turnaround for all we know. And then can Aaron Glenn get the offensive coordinator hire right? Because that is the move that makes or breaks every defensive-minded coach. If you can't get the offensive coordinator right and you whiff on the quarterback position, then you have no chance to succeed. Aaron Glenn, out of all of the head coaching hires, he probably has the second most difficult one, considering how dysfunctional the Jets are in the front office and, you know, the uncertainty at the quarterback position, plus with how tough the division already is with Josh Allen. You know, he's a good motivator. He looks like he could be a good culture builder, but we'll see how he looks on the field. None of us can argue that the Dallas Cowboys made the worst head coaching hire of this offseason. Jerry Jones hired his new puppet, that being Brian Schottenheimer, as his new head coach. And Mike McCarthy was the best head coach that the Cowboys could have had, who was able to always have you in contention to be in the playoffs when the team was healthy, and he could actually somewhat overcome Jerry's delusions as a owner and general manager. But getting Brian Schottenheimer, there's nothing on this guy's resume that screams he's qualified to be an NFL head coach. Hiring Brian Schottenheimer is the final kill shot for the Dallas Cowboys with Jerry Jones as the owner. Listen, I don't want to sound harsh, and I'm not trying to be hot takey when I say this, but the Dallas Cowboys are not going to be good until Jerry Jones is gone. Until he can get his hands off of the steering wheel of this organization, when he can stop calling the shots, that's when the Dallas Cowboys can finally have a shot of being able to compete for a Super Bowl again. But with Jerry, it's just the same rinse, wash, and repeat cycle with him. He just hires these head coaches and he just wants to manipulate them. He just wants to puppet them around. He basically wants to be a coach on the field. He kind of said in one of his interviews that he kind of wanted to be a coach too, but he wanted to be an owner because you can get more money doing that. But he'll be a coach now with all the money that's getting paid. With Jerry Jones, it's just funny, man. Dallas Cowboy fans at this point, why are you not protesting? Why are you not in the front of the Cowboys facilities with pitchforks, lighters? Like, you guys right now should be heavily upset with what Jerry Jones has just done. This guy does not care about winning at all. He may think that he's doing everything he can to give the Cowboys the best chance to win, but he's actually doing everything that he can to ruin the Cowboys, to stain the legacy that he worked so hard to build. Jerry Jones' ego is just so big. That's the biggest downfall of a lot of franchises in the NFL. It's not that you have a bunch of dummies running these teams or purchasing these teams. It's just that you have a lot of head coaches and owners that just have big egos for no reason. Like, who cares about getting all the credit? We should prioritize winning over everything. It made no sense how Jerry Jones let Jimmy Johnson ever walk away with all of the success that Jimmy Johnson had. There's no way Brian Schottenheimer has a chance in hell of leading the Cowboys to success. This is the end of the Jerry Jones era, and it's going to go out in the darkest way possible. I don't even want to tune in to see how badly this is going to end. They're under the cap. You got to pay Michael Parsons. You got Dak Prescott coming off a season-ending injury after you just paid him, by the way, at the start of the season, And you have somebody in Brian Schottenheimer that doesn't look like he's qualified to be a good head coach in the NFL, leading the biggest brand in the NFL. This is America's team, people, or as what I like to call them, America's garbage, because that's what they look like every time they take the field. Jerry Jones just got a new puppet to further run the Dallas Cowboys into the ground. Wow. Brian Schottenheimer is your new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.